you've been in organizations as they've kind of been going through massive swings. You look at, again, the DocuSign swing of like everyone had to go digital. And then all of a sudden the market suddenly shifted in terms of enterprises spending less, finding ways to all of a sudden kind of, reallocate resources. So it's been very interesting, looking at your history of kind of the roles and the functions that you built out in these very agile or, unexpected movements. I'd love to dig into like what you think about agility within the go-to-market function, how you think about building that up.
It's a great call out. Look, I will say I work close enough with the C-suite to know at the end of the day, we're all human, right? We make decisions based off the information that we ourselves know from our experiences and based off of like what people tell us on our teams. And so I'll be the first to say, join DocuSign kind of towards the height. I compare DocuSign a lot to like Zoom as far as just having this like meteoric growth during COVID. And so revenue essentially doubled in a year. Mean attainment was very high. You could imagine 140+% mean attainment, which is very unusual in a SaaS company. And so everyone was understandably, I would say, kind of drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Leadership was bullish, and it's how do we invest? How do we keep the good times coming? And as I mentioned, right, I was building out that enterprise SOPs organization, and you got a rep that has 30 accounts like I did, at Microsoft. And we're essentially like, hey, we want to keep growing. Well, in a standard capacity model, it's based off of ramp and capacity and, number of headcount and quotas. So what do? Well, we doubled headcount. We grew quotas considerably. We said, hey, we want the good times to keep going. This is what we need. This is what the math says. And, the warning lights came in, or I'm like, this doesn't make sense intuitively, right? Can you drive more productivity with half the accounts from 30 to 15? I'm running all this deep analysis looking at how many accounts the reps touch where they're able to build pipe. The math isn't working out, right? And I think, you know, the plan's the plan. And I think there's some concerns, right? How much can we actually grow this? Can we continue it? And hindsight's always 2020. But I'll say we had a rapid shift. We did not grow, continue growing 100% plus. And I think you have to quickly shift your thinking. So there's that shock moment where you think it's like just a flip of the switch, but it's literally took a couple quarters of missing the number of, thinking, okay, it's not going the way we thought it was going to go. How do we fix it? And, most companies do annual planning, and you do planning every 6 months if you're growing incredibly fast or if there's some type of disruption. And I think the latter was what happened in our case, where we had to reinspect and replan the business. You do have to have that agility. And so one of the tools we built, I call it the poor man's LTV to CAC. I look at ACV divided by OTE of a rep. And essentially, it's a cheap way of looking at dollar in, dollar out. I looked at our verticals, I looked at our segments. And unfortunately, when you're trying to optimize the business, you're looking at what verticals make sense, what segments make sense. I can compare an ASEAN SMB rep to a federal, North America rep, and I can understand kind of who's more efficient, right?
Yep.
And so we had to creatively build tools to help us measure the health of the business. And if we needed to make cuts and optimize the business, how would we do that? And I think those are some of the tools that we had to do to try to help right size the business.